You're all
No,
here.
everybody is present.
Look at
Here
that.
we are.
We have a full quorum. Any declarations of interest, councillors, of any items on the agenda tonight?
Right.
No? None. Okay. Minutes of the previous meetings. Town council meeting 10th of June for approval, and the other two, the planning committee of the 18th and the library steering committee of the 11th for information only. Can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Geddes, seconder. Thank you to Councillor Martin. All those in favour? Thank you, unanimous. And over to your good self for the finance report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As usual, for the record, at the 30th of June, which is our reporting date, the balance on the Town Council's funds stood at £350,748. Bank accounts were reconciled to that date successfully. Section 2 covers the payment during the month of June, and the complete list is attached as usual. They amounted to a total of 62,368, and with 3,299 being attributable to social gardening activities. Asked you to note that the reasons for the height of the level of payments during June owes a lot to the fact that that's the month in which we paid the car park rents for last financial year. It's taken a while to arrive at that point. They are, of course, accounted for in the income and expenditure accounts for last year, but they're actually paid in this year, so that's a substantial amount. The June payments, 14th of June payment of £7,500, almost to business stream. I've been asked you to note that that too belongs to last year. My colleagues had considerable trouble, to put it mildly, with getting invoices published during 2018 to 19 for the water supply to the Esplanade toilets. And finally, the invoice was agreed and therefore paid. But it is last year's expenditure that it relates to, not this year's. I've asked you to note the credit of £3,237, that is the payment from Ryde Town Council reimbursing our payment for their maintenance contract for their Wargate machines, and that is the last of all the payments due to us. So we've now collected all the money back that we should have done. And finally, for those of you who have wondered about the pressure washer, if you've seen it, you'll probably wonder even more. But just to reassure you that it was purchased from grant funding provided by the Isle of Wight Council and not from the precept. So section 3, receipts during June came to 14,352, with 7,913 being the total of the sort of garden rents for June. Finally, the year-to-date variances across the first quarter of the financial year. The variances list is attached to the report as usual. Payments for the month were payments for the period rather 1,868 more than budget, and receipts over the 2 months were £2,502 better than budget. So, Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Good, thank you very much. That's good news, the bottom line. And just clarify again from me, the item D in the payments during June about the metering problem is the meter is established where it is, and no problems with the reading of it now, or was it based on
No,
estimates? Or?
we now have a proper meter that's working properly, and we know where it is.
Good. Yeah.
So we're now working from our readings, not from estimates.
Right, okay. I could take a lesson for that from my own household. Councillors, any comments or questions? No? Could I have a proposal, please? Councillor Martin, seconded. Councillor Pocket, all those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Then the area health business. I've been asked Jason just in a second to talk about this, but I just want to say before you do, Jason, about my little chagrin. It was agreed at a meeting last week that I would go to the board meeting this week and ask a question about the health visitors place in view of the fact our previous meeting we were mandated to do so. Now, according to the guidelines published on the website for the National Health Service Trust on the island, something like the Isle of Wight Council, they encourage public questions, but if you want a full and fulsome answer, they have to be submitted 48 hours before the meeting, which is fair enough, so that you can get a full reply. Which we duly did. I formulated the question with the clerk, and we duly sent it and emailed it to the clerk. Julie turned up at the board meeting and was embarrassed to find out that nobody ever had heard of Ventnor Town Council or the Mayor, or in fact he would be asking an important question. Of course, all the high regions were there. One gentleman went to ask the secretary to the trust whether she had received it, and she said no. And I said, well, I'm here, I intend to ask the question if I can. And he said, well, let me just consult the chairman. He went and consulted the chair came over, introduced himself to me. Very politely said, you can ask the question, Stuart, but you won't get an answer. So there was absolutely no point in me proceeding at that point. So I about turned, paid the £2 Vaseline plated car park charge and came back home, fuming. I have to say that the staff who were there were very good, and I've got no angst with them at all. Just that the system just seems to fall down yet again, and the fact that we never even had an acknowledgement. David has since complained about the treatment that we receive as a town council, and asked specifically for an acknowledgement 2 days ago, and he has not even put an acknowledgement to his request for an acknowledgement. So God knows what they are. We had a meeting today, and Jason, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you, Stuart. So as Mayor suggested, we had already scheduled this meeting prior to Stuart going to last week to Trust Board with the question. The question is still the same. How do you feel that taking the health visitors out of Ventnor makes it better for Ventnor? So we did have that today. I can suggest that we are not going to get any turnaround on that. It isn't going to be that. It is a situation where they're going to make a case to take their people out and put them back in Sandown. Now, those of us that were here and those of us that you know, years ago, through the Our Place programme and through the My Life programme, which is all about bringing services within areas to make them better for areas. That's where we thought we were going. It seems to be it's turned around again. The whole basis for this happening in the first instance was we need to take them into a central location, Sandown Barrack building. Now, we would have welcomed that, and you've heard me say this before, we would have welcomed that years ago. It's just not happening, okay? It's not there. And we found out today that isn't happening. What we have had today is assurances that taking the team out of this building will not affect Ventnor electorate. We are yet to see that, but we're emboldened by their insurances this morning. I will still contest that is the case. We are still looking at a situation where this is a budget situation. This is a situation where they're taking within on an ideology. Now, we've had an ideology before. We've had My Life Full Life. We've gone through that one. We, as a council, have gone through the Our Place programme, government place programme, to say we can co-design services with people. This is still not knitting. Okay, it's not there now. I will come out today and I will say that again. The Sandown Barrack building is still not fit for purpose. It is still not fit for locality use. What we are undergoing at this point is the one public inquiry that one public pound on the island is worth any other pound anywhere else. We just don't have the infrastructure to do that. So it's there, and they say it's there, but we don't quite believe it. Anyway, I take the assurances we had this morning that Ventnor will not miss out from what is going on, but we will monitor it and we will see to go from there. We've had assurances from the Community Services Director and her lead nurse today that actually, yeah, we will work hand in hand and we'll see whether that happens or not. So that's where that's at.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Just to add, before I bring David in here, before I open the discussion further, that we've been here before, really, with My Life and Fuel Life. Every time I hear that bloody phrase, pardon my language, I cringe, because we had a meeting.
It has gone now.
Yeah, but we were given a presentation by Joe Kennett about 2 or 3 years ago, and we were told then that everything was going to be brought in-house up at St Cross Business Park, and we're talking along the same lines today with Jennifer and Nicola, although to be fair to the two of those that we met today, they do seem to be committed to the fact that this is actually, as Jenny said today, she feels herself a change of atmosphere, a change of, a tangible change, that things are starting to knit together. Personally, I'm a bit like Jason. I believe it when I see it, and I just wish that if it moves at the pace that it's been moving at for the last 3 or 4 years, we'll all be in a black carbon along Brailsford Road before anything really happens. So it just pains me that it's taken so long to do things. And you can see it appended to this here is the letter that the clerk wrote to the chief exec. That was halfway through June with no response at all. I mean, to treat a town councillor in that manner is not good at all. I mean, we as a town council pride ourselves in the fact that we're very much working for the benefit of the community, and these people have to realise that we're serious about what we say. Now, I think it's a done deal. I think it's moving to Sandown. I don't think there's anything we can, as a council, do to counteract that. But the fact of the matter still remains that we've never been consulted about it along the way. And the fact that they're going to go back to St Mary's today and ask questions about how I was treated and why David never got an answer to his letter, at the end of the day, it's neither here nor there because the decision's already made. But people have to be aware that when we talk about these things, we're pretty serious about them. Okay. Anybody? Jamie?
Chair, I think this is serious because it's a total disregard of the town council, which is the voice of our residents, and I think we should at least decide that we should publicise some of the things that you've just said. To explain that we as a town council did fight tooth and nail and so on, but against impossible barriers. So that people in Ventnor understand, because often, residents don't understand that these decisions are outside our control.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Jason?
I'll answer that. Absolutely that. And that was part of the conversation this morning, Jamie. You're absolutely correct. What I've always said for a long time, and it's not, I wouldn't suggest it's now, and I wouldn't suggest it's this, particular movement that's doing it. And it has been a problem for years for the NHS that the communication is not good. It's really not. So when they come and they go, oh, right, we're taking this office out, and as we ascertained this morning, they see that as a back office move. So therefore, they don't see that as a consultant point. Whereas we say, look, we're your guys, we're your partnership idea, yeah. When that happens out there, we have people coming to us and saying, why is that moving out? They've no idea about how that's a logistic or a back office move. We have to move quickly and say, actually we don't know, because that's how we were left. And I think that's exactly how we came out of that today. So I think that's always a due process, and I think maybe we have to move on and make that our own press response to what's going on there. Just to make sure that this is, all these back office moves, I'm not going to do the thing in the air, that these organisations think. We spent years, 6-7 years ago, we tried this, and it was poo-poo. Actually, they are relevant.
Yeah, and I think the fact that, just to reiterate what you're saying about the consultation and the back office thing, their reason for not consulting was that the members of the public were not directly involved in this. In other words, members of the public don't actually come to the offices here to. Let me just, before you jump in, just say what we're saying, and I know exactly what you're going to say. But they said that was their reason for not consulting, was the fact that members of the public, stakeholders, did not come to Salisbury Gardens for a consultation face-to-face with the staff. It was mainly just used as a back office. Now, the interesting thing from my point of view as a result of that was the Clark's direct question about were the staff consulted about it and were they involved in it. The answer to which was, we had no complaints from the staff. There was no direct, we've spoken to them and they said this and that. The answer to David was, I think I'm correct in saying, David, was that they had no complaints from the staff. No, not that they had spoken to the staff and the staff has particularly said, oh, we love this idea, we'd love to drive to Sandown every day and then drive back to Ventnor to see our customers and things like that. So it just the wrong way to handle things, really. It's just they haven't gone about it in anything remotely like the way that they should have done. The two ladies today were very nice, and we were sort of reassured by some of the things they said. But at the same time, this is a small part of the process, a small part of the organisation, and to treat everybody else and treat the rest of the organisation like they treated this process, it doesn't really engender much trust in how's it going. So, yeah, Jamie, I think, is there anything specific you want?
Yes, I think, as a council, I think we should make it public, all the thoughts that you've just articulated, Chair, that we try our very best, that we understood the problem, that we didn't get the really proper answers. We felt that it was just nonsense to move health visits to Sandown when they were serving people in our town. And so maybe so. It may not serve much, but if it serves the fact that they'll take notice of consulting us in the future,
Yeah, sure. I take it. So are you want to formally move that the clerk and I bring forward a formal words and correspond with the relevant people?
Yes.
Okay, we don't need to recall that. Okay.
I don't think that will help. I mean, I have used the Chronicle column to tell people what's happening and how we've responded, and I'm quite happy to finish that off next time round. But I don't think going to war with them is going to achieve anything. The concerns for me, as the officer involved in this, as I said to them, is that Ventnor has high levels of deprivation, which they're well aware of, and added to that, it is isolated in a way that other areas are not, and that therefore any withdrawal by distance of service provision makes me very nervous. As Councillor Mack has reported, that the response has been to both him and the Mayor and to me that there won't be any reduction in service level. My response to that was to say to them directly, we'll be watching, because personally I do not believe you can take that team 6 miles away and make no difference to the service level they provide. But they have assured us they will, and I think we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Jamie, sorry.
Chair, just to say, I'm 100% sure that the town clerk has absolutely done everything in accordance with previous meetings and so on and so forth. And we've done our best. I just feel that we should leave a message that, so that next time something like this happens, they would think of us first. We better talk to them before they announce things and not get on with it without our consultation.
Sorry, Jason, just before I bring you back in, can I just maybe offer a compromise in as much as we wait and see if we were assured today that the Chief Executive has drafted a reply to David's letter and to my question. So can we wait till we see what that says, Jamie, and then maybe the clerk will circulate it to members and then we'll take it from there.
Yes, Chair.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry. I mean, it may seem like a minor detail given the importance of the issue here, but this we didn't get your email excuse. That's never a good sign when it comes from a large bureaucracy, and we need to. If there's one area that we need to punch straight through, it's that particular area, and ask them what they're doing about making sure that in future they don't miss emails, leaving aside the actual subject matter in this case.
Well, as the clerk rightfully pointed out, I CC'd the clerk into the email and he got his copy as a CC, not the direct recipient.
And I'll go so far as to say is that we could do that under a freedom of information thing, that to find out where that email went.
Yes, sure.
And it can be couched in terms of being helpful to them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm sort of tending to agree with Tony here. I think there's actually two things going on here. Not only have the issue of the health visitors moving and the affecting the service, and I tend to agree that the service will be degraded, but all we can do is try and measure it and see if we can. The other concerning point is that the just total disregard of any communication, and I think that's as equally of import. Because we can't have a council that just says, well, tough, we're not going to bother to respond. And I think that's the one that we do need to take into task. But I don't really want to go to war. I don't think
it's a little skirmish.
But I don't think it can go unremarked either. That we're very disappointed that we sent you some official communications and that you chose not to respond.
No.
Thank you. So, Councillor McCauley, how do you want to proceed? Would you like formally to ask myself and the clerk to respond in the manner that you've outlined? I think the strength of feeling around the table is that we ought to do something.
Yes, I would. In fact, yes, definitely.
Okay, so I'll do that. I'll bring that formal voice and together with the clerk, and then we'll circulate it together. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else on this before we move on?
Has
Sorry,
there been any implication or any information that there is any other advantage to be gained either for the health visitors or for Isle of Wight Council or for Ventnor, the recipients of this care at Ventnor in this move, apart from the fact they wouldn't have to pay rent, they'd have to pay travelling expenses instead?
well, they're saying that the financial aspect is one of the main points of my email and question. They say that has nothing to do with the decision. They say that this is a centralisation and that the staff would have more support if worked out of Sandown rather than working out of here due to illness, due to people not turning up, due to staff being lonely on the job, various other things. And I try to point out that in this age of communication, which is self-evidently one of their strengths, then that shouldn't be a problem. That went down like a lead balloon, I have to say, Lee. But,
Could I just ask Councillor Mack if there's any indication at all in your communication?
In indication
that there was any extra advantage in this move, apart from we're just going to do it because it centralises it in some vague way?
No, I would, if I was being truthful with this and having talked to them this morning and what they've told us and what has come out of, this is a budgetary move. I absolutely believe that is a budgetary move. I really do believe that it is. We as an organisation don't worry about the building because we can fill that tomorrow. That was never our case. I think it's one of these things that gets involved within what we're meant to be doing is moving into a integrated system. I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I will stand by what I said that if not last town council, if I said it then, I might have said it before. That building at Sandown is still not current. It is still not fit for movement. It's an ideology. It's one public estate. We're going to do this, and we can't miss this one.
So no, not
can't miss
really
this one because we missed my life. We missed my life.
Mm-hmm.
We now have to bill it as something else. Yeah. Absolutely. And
maybe it'll come back as a musical one day. You just see it, my life is through my.
I might suggest, indulgence chair. I might admit that we did speak with Director of Community Services today, who led my life with full life.
My indulgences are very well known, Councillor Mark. I don't think it's going to extend to that kind of life.
Organisations are what they are.
If I may, is there any objective way that the town council can monitor the quality of the service? Because it was mentioned before, we keep a very close eye to see if it's going downhill. Well, unless we have data, would there be any provable way that the service has gone? Because we can't rely on anecdote in a year's time.
Well, I can answer that. They have given us the opportunity of looking at the data, what the data they would give us, but they say that there's quite extensive data and they're quite happy for us to have sight of that data. So that
is good news. So hopefully that would enable potentially that.
No, they were quite specific about that today. In fact, I don't think we even had to ask for that. I think it was volunteered.
Oh, that's a good thing. Super. Okay.
Okay.
Just one final point. I mean, answering Councillor Geddes' question, whenever I've been involved in centralisation, which the answer has been control. I think whenever you've got a service that's got little satellite offices, the people in charge are a bit suspicious that the satellite offices are doing their own thing, and they put it back to central control. I would think that's the answer. Hopefully, we will get a better service if they're right. But only the time will tell.
Well, that's what they're promising for sure, but whether that's what manifests itself in the long term, Councillor Lucas, I'd be very interested to see. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. We'll move on to mental health support worker. This is something that has been discussed in the community development group and other places, and I'm sure it is the recommendation that the council has recommended to take on responsibility for the employment and funding of the mental health support worker. This is directly due to the withdrawing of funding. I'll let David explain the background to that, if I may.
I think it's all in the paper, Chair. I mean, there is a group that's been meeting for some years here on Monday mornings in the Green Room, which is regarded by the Isle of Wight Council as an extension of its mental health centres. And because they are committed to closing those, they will also withdraw the support of the group that meets here. Tony McCarthy has close contact with the group, and he put the case to the community working group that the group were very keen indeed to continue meeting, but that we couldn't sanction that without a support worker being involved for what I hope are obvious reasons, and therefore the suggestion, having had a closer look at that, the worker involved is very willing to participate and to continue the work that she's been doing. She is a mental health support worker, and as a staff we had some concerns about the support to the support worker because they come with limited qualifications and a background which doesn't include issues like safeguarding as a specific qualification. And I was then reassured by what's in paragraph F of the report, namely that the conversation Tony had with the worker's current manager brought along with it the assurance that professional support would remain available if the town council were to be employing the support worker. So therefore, as clerk, I'm happy to support the recommendation that's in section 4 of the paper from the Community Development Working Group. I've indicated that we don't expect that to come into force until October because the way those discussions are going in the back offices of the world, although they've got the mental health centre closure down as a saving of 145,000 this year, they still haven't quite decided how to do it or when to do it. And so I suspect we'll be halfway through the year before it happens, and therefore if the town council were to take this on, the estimated cost in the remaining half year would be £780.
Thank you, Clara, and I will support that recommendation. I think the way that mental health services in the island are treated is nothing short of criminal. And the fact that the Isle of Wight Council should even be thinking about taking 145,000 out of the budget is in itself a sad indictment on the way things are, the way their priorities lie, given the problems that we have on the island and locally with mental health. I think it's a terrible shame, considering that out of next year's planned £4.5 million decrease in funding for various services across the board, including adult social care, children and other things. This just compounds the problem as far as we're concerned. And I think as a town council, the least we can do is agree to this funding. Although we shouldn't have to be paying for it out of the town council precept, it should be coming from County Hall and Newport, but they're absolutely adamant for whatever reasons they have, and I'd like to know how their mental health is around the cabinet table when they sit and agree to things like this. I think they should be ashamed of themselves. And again, a great shame that no members of the press are here to report on what we're saying here today, because I think if these things were widely known throughout the island, people would look upon it as nothing short of scandalous. Anyway, that's my 5 pence worth.
Yes, under the support, professional support promised by the manager there, would that also include any training that was found to be necessary?
The view, as I understand it, is that the training's already been done, so we have confidence in the current worker. My concern was simply that she had someone to go to if she had doubts or questions.
Right. I was thinking more in the case there may be some change in legislation, and suddenly we're landed with a large training bill because to upgrade the current member of staff. Sorry, and just to carry on with that, the group that's there. What would happen if someone else in the area was who would make the decision that somebody else joins the group, or indeed someone has had their time and needs to leave the group? Who would be making that decision?
It's not a fixed membership group. At present, they come by referral. The support worker concerned is very interested in extending the way the group operates, mainly by adopting the model that's been used elsewhere as an anxiety cafe model, which is, I gather, fairly well known, though I don't know what it is. But it would be her choice as to whether new people join the group or not.
And what about people leaving the group as well? I mean, who will make that decision?
It's informal in that respect. I
I
think the paradox here is that the service will probably, as a result of this, if members agree to it, will actually be better because the person, I mean, Tony McCarthy's been very involved in this, and he knows the people involved very well. So I have confidence in his confidence, if you like, that this can be. Go forward, Councillor Bond.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether the working group looked at the option of offsetting the cost partly or wholly through the personal allowance is one question. And the other question is if subsequently the service does close for whatever reason in the future, do we end up with a redundancy cost?
Well, from the legal side of it,
I don't think we went that far, talking on behalf of the committee group. I don't think we looked that far to go there. I think we look at this as a 6-month go forward. And see what that happens, but I wouldn't be that worried. I think we're taking this on the same basis as council agreed for the network worker. I think this is something we have to. This is quite. We are making a stake here that we are taking some sort of benefit and some sort of responsibility about what is happening and what they're doing there. We're talking about the Monday day group. Within the mental health cuts, we're losing the Thursday and Friday group within town. So this is something we're coming to. But to come back to you exactly, Clark, is that okay? Are we worried about that? We're going to do this
the commitment,
an on basis.
Sorry, the commitment, as I understand it, would be just for the 6 months of this financial year, which, as Councillor Mack suggests, would give us the chance to be reassured or not about the way it was working. And it would be a matter then to consider whether or not to include it in the budget for next year, as with the advice service and network.
So just to be absolutely clear, the recommendation here is that we fund it to the tune of £780 for the 6 months left for the current, which will be left of the current financial year, and then the council, if necessary, will take a view on whether to continue that into the next financial year. So you're not, if you agree to this, agreeing to a permanent solution at this time. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
So the recommendation needs slightly tweaking then, just to cover the fact that it does relate just to this year.
Yeah, included.
If I may just pick up on a small point, you said that 3 days of coverage has been lost in the town, and this is to replace 1 day. Yes.
This is so we
3 sessions are lost.
I think
with
the mental health cuts that have come across, and some of them are. If you listen to NHS properly, I think some of these might need to be done, but of course these are the ones that cut us. if you like, in Ventnor. So we have this group on the Monday, and the Thursday and Friday group are affected by that same situation. This is seen as the one that's probably more.
Okay. This is only to replace the Monday group.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's still a net loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no winners here.
No. We wouldn't. I don't think. Sorry, Chair. I don't think the community development group would say, look, we need to replace all this. There are some things that need to be changed, and I think if NHS are going to do that properly through the trust or even through NHS England, then that's fine. But this is seen as the Monday group is.
No, I mean, having attended, as you're well aware, a number of the community working group meetings. Now, I know that it's not about throwing money left, right, and centre to bring every service in. I know everything's very well considered. So
it's really death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, if these things were done properly and Isle of Wight Council was honest about these things, they'd have a thorough review of these things and then come to people like us and ask what solutions there are, because there's something more and more that's going to impact on our residents, especially with the areas of deprivation that we've got. Councillor Geddes.
What happened to the Thursday and Friday group? Was anybody in it? Did people miss out? Was it just wasted away?
According to the latest leaflet, which the Mental Health Service publishes, there are 3 mental health centres, Ryde, Newport and somewhere in the west, and there's Ventnor Satellite. Now, the Ventnor Satellite used to have, always is being announced to have, a Friday session, but it doesn't. So as far as I'm aware, they are proposing to close the 3 centres and this one. I don't know about anything else.
Okay, I'll leave it.
So, well, we have to
It comes. Sorry, sir. It comes under there is a review on mental health, as we know over the last couple of years, because it was seen that on the Isle of Wight it wasn't doing that. The trust itself was seen to be inadequate doing so. They are. It's come out of the trust thing. It's going through CCG that they are looking at how they commission mental health services within the island. I know certainly, and I've been involved with some of that active work, that they are looking to do something quite proactive soon. But it takes time.
Yeah, we have to see.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Bond, if I can just go back to what you were saying about the wording, just off the top of my head, and I'll be guided by the clerk here. The Town Council is recommended to agree to take on responsibility for the employment and funding of the mental health support worker following the ending of Isle of Wight Council support for it in the sum of £780 for the rest of the financial year 2019/20.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
I'd put that phrase in after the word worker with suitable punctuation.
yes.
As you well know, and I don't have to remind you, Councillor Melvin, the clerk is a stickler for punctuation. I don't have to correct it many times.
That exactly. Yeah.
Right. So based on Councillor Bond's amendment, would you like to formally propose that?
Yes.
Okay. And a seconder, please. Councillor Logan, all those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. We're moving on. Oh, North Street Playground, a real success story. Of course it is. These are pictures of the council workers uprooting their
Yes.
things. And the purpose of this report is to ask members to consider a request from the recently formed Longdown Residents Association, of which we have members here, for the Town Council to negotiate with the Isle of Wight Council for the transfer of the ownership and management of the North Street Playground, and you'll be aware of the programme. Can I ask Councillor Geddes if she'd like to say anything to this?
Yes, there is a meeting, a public meeting of the Longdown Residents Association right now, this minute at the library, which I will go to after this, if theirs is longer than ours. The only thing that we changed when we had our first committee meeting the other day was the membership rather than saying the association has agreed to cover these various streets, we just said something along the lines of anybody who's within spitting distance of the playground or has an interest therein. I mean, Attorney McCarthy was redrafting it, but we didn't want to exclude people. We wanted to include people. We wanted to include people, particularly whose children play in that playground or who would like to support it.
I'm not prepared to put spitting in.
Sure you are.
Where's your sense of adventure, David?
Well, yes, within easy reach, I think was that we were.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And yes, I've seen the recommendations. I've been through this with Tony. We're planning initially a picnic party, and what we really want to do is make this playground a better playground. And on the back of that, you know, do whatever for that area where several of us live, incidentally. That we would like to see for our town generally, because it's quite a sort of discrete area. It has a, you know, it's nameable, it's look-atable.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, just to add that I think it's a great thing. I was away on holiday when this all erupted, as it were, and the likes of yourself and the others. Grabbing the nettle and getting things done, and it just shows you that when you mess about with the community of Ventnor, you do so at your peril. And I think Adelaide Council realise that because we've just not going to have it. And I found out only yesterday that I'm a proud member of Longdown because Clarence Road and Glenwood Terrace are included in the boundary. And of course, my children who are 38 and 30 now have many fallen off the swings up there on many occasions.
Well, hopefully
not because I wasn't looking after them properly, of course.
Hopefully in the future they can fall off onto a softer surface.
Yeah. So it's a great success story, and well done to you and the rest of the committee, and to Tony's initiative as well. And we shouldn't forget the hard work that him and others have put into and officers of the council. Anybody else got anything to add to this before we move to? I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any contention here.
No.
Okay, we won't take this to the vote because I think we're pretty agreed. Okay?
Yeah.
Unless you insist, Clark, we can see that properly. Thank you very much indeed.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry, Joe.
No, it's okay.
I
just saw.
did.
You did a vote. Okay. Lee, would you like to
I
move?
propose.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Logan, all those in favour? Are you satisfied with that? Great, thank you very much indeed.
Get these ones.
Now, your favourite subject of all time, you've started a term, Council Tax Support Team Scheme Consultation. Take it away.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with nature, it's entirely to do with council.
Yeah, I know, but it's there's some big words in there.
Yes. It's different from previous years when we've had this discussion, because one of the reasons for the change they're proposing is not about saving money. It is genuinely about adjusting to the introduction and rollout of universal credit. So some of what they're proposing makes sense, I think, in terms of the approach they're adopting, but the remainder is about saving money. And option 2A and its component parts, option 2 and its component parts, as you can see, will have is predicted to have the consequence of taking a further £147,548 out of the pockets of the most needy members of the population. And you should, of course, bear in mind, as I'm sure you're aware, that previous changes to this council tax support scheme mean that nobody of working age can claim more than 70% of their rent, of their housing, of their rent responsibility from the scheme. So people have already been hit very hard, and whether you would be happy to support further reduction in the funding available to them or not is your choice. And whether you want to make a response or not is your choice.
Thank you. Well, obviously my instinct is to say no. I'm not in favour of that. And the lead item in the 6 o'clock news in the BBC today was universal credit. I don't know if anybody saw it. And the scams that are operating as a result of this perfect solution which the DWP has offered to our most poor and most needy people. Another scandal, in my ever so humble opinion. So, but I don't feel that really that I understand this as much as you do as far as making a decision here tonight about it, but my inclination is to say I don't approve of anything that takes money out of the pockets of those who need it. Jason.
If I can move on, and of course, as council will understand that we took notice last year to last council to approve a worker to deal with this within the situation that I worked on voluntarily, and am no longer further to do. This council tax and universal credit has become a complete, absolute quagmire. It isn't fit for purpose. It doesn't work. I would suggest that this council ask that however this comes about, you go back and you start it again and you make it clear for anybody, because it's not clear for anyone, let alone those that don't have access to computers, let alone anyone that has any access to any brain function that this has. We've had conversations today with NHS, as was said today. Their IT systems don't fit together. This, as a system, doesn't work. It's this is a governmental situation that is trying to change systems within employment, as if that makes any difference anymore. I think we're all going to get there, that we need to go somewhere or the other. Financial banks don't matter anymore. This is the system for we have to stand up, and if this is one you saying, Chair, that we have to stand up and say something, this is one of them. This doesn't work at any point at all. We were a pilot system for universal credit. This doesn't fit. It doesn't fit anywhere else, certainly within housing benefit or anything. No.
Well, thank you, Jason. And I know that we are in that sense an apolitical council, and we don't refer back to our political allegiances. But my solution to this problem would be to put £1.05 on income tax, which is directly against the guy you're going to vote for, Tony, but we won't go down that at the moment. But
no,
it has to be said, and it still stands up, that the people who are suffering are the people who can't afford to suffer, and this amply illustrates that.
And it's hurting people where they really have impact. It's hurting them in housing, which is big.
And the big worry.
I've had plenty of experience trying to work out universal credit, because it's one of the things we do here on Tuesday afternoon. People come in here.
Well, if you're a spare lunch, you can explain it to me.
I can work some, because I think I've managed once. But what I'm finding is people are not functioning, because one, they think they're going to become homeless, everything else stops. So the actual impact is much more than the numbers you've got written on that.
Yeah. I know, and David and I went to a presentation at County Hall about it a while ago now, just as it was about to be rolled out to the Isle of Wight, and I've never had so much nonsense talked in one room in my life. We come out of that very disappointed. Very disappointed and very disjointed. My biggest worry here is that Bob Seeley, our MP, has come out in public and said he thinks it's a wonderful thing. Universal credit is working tremendously well right throughout the country and in the Isle of Wight. Well, the proof of the pudding here is here, Bob, and I wish you was here to see it.
Well, I would call MP Bob Seeley to come and tell us exactly how that's about.
You won't come here, Jason, because...
Well, anywhere in the Isle of Wight, it wouldn't matter to me.
You'd be warned, wouldn't you, Tony?
If we are to make a corporate response, it must focus on what's within the powers of the Isle of Wight Council to deal
Yeah,
with,
surely.
and not on what
The national
Westminster's
picture.
up to. My short glance at the link for the full consultation document indicated to me that this whole thing is far too complex, the Isle of Wight Council solution. And if they could be persuaded to simplify it, it would then make, okay, the recipients may not get any more money, but at least it'll be intelligible, which at the moment it isn't. And that's what my colleague here said.
My answer to that would be if we could bring it to a form of words that Dave Stewart, the leader of the council, understands, then round the table we have a chance of understanding it ourselves.
Yeah.
But
You said that, Chair.
maybe I'm being flippant.
Yeah.
Could you edit that out, Marlon, please?
Yeah, I mean, to follow on from that, if I may, I mean, I sat down with a cup of tea and I opened up the 26 page of the full consultation document, and I didn't get halfway through my cup of tea before realising that no matter how many times I reread, it wasn't going to click in. Unless you work within that sphere day in, day out, you're not going to understand the terminology and so on.
Yeah.
So how, not being disparaging to the general public, but how the general public can engage in that as a public consultation is beyond me.
No.
It's for the specific stakeholders to engage in that. I mean, congratulations for, I'm sure, Dave, because you do work for this stuff day in, day out. I'm sure you have a good understanding, but I don't know how. I certainly don't know how I could respond to this.
I don't, in a sense. Well, let me go a bit longer, because I spent several cups of tea.
Okay, I feel relieved. Feel validated.
Did your thinking for you?
To go back to Councillor Marvin's point, clearly, as you know, the Isle of Wight Council has no control over universal credit, and because, as I don't understand universal credit fully, but because of the way it works, it results in people's income being adjusted according to their other sources of income. So the Isle of Wight Council does have a problem in setting a scheme which decides what level of rebate they're entitled to, given that it can vary week on week.
Week on week.
So I've got some sympathy for this grid, because I can see why, given that universal credit is here to stay for now anyway, they've got to adjust to it in a way that it does. And the grid actually isn't as complicated as it looks, I promise you.
I've done multiple.
I obviously needed more tea.
The reason there are so many levels to it is simply because whether people get 70, 65, 60% of their rent rebated simply depends on the calculation about their other sources of income as combined with their income from universal credit.
Not rent discounted.
My only concern is that the grid should be adjusted in such a way, and I believe it can be, that people don't lose money. The Isle of Wight Council, as Stephen will know, he probably got halfway through, you know. What they point out is that under option 1, some people will gain and some people will lose. It's not simply a matter of taking money off everybody, it's a matter of where their income comes to in terms of their entitlement to support from universal credit. And as long as the grid, for me, if the grid it didn't result in anybody getting less, I'd be quite happy with that.
Well, there are pros and cons with the grid, aren't there? I mean, you're right, there's an advantage in the sense that people's income can fluctuate a little bit and they stay in the same band, but the disadvantage
It
is
is a band.
yeah, but the disadvantage is once you get to the end of a band and the slight bit of extra income flips you into the next band, you end up with some odd cliff edge effects, and to potentially you could end up with a situation where something, same with the doctors, somebody doesn't have overtime and they end up worse off and they haven't worked. So there are pros and cons to doing it this way.
Yeah, but where the whole purpose of doing this credits to make work pay.
Yeah, but I was just saying, the bands are only 10% at the bottom. So potentially you could earn an extra £1 and you'd be paying 10% more of your council tax, which is quite,
but the difference between them and the hospital is
Taxing
the people who are entitled to income tax, council tax support can't withdraw them later in support of their argument, I'm afraid. Otherwise they'd lose the whole lot.
I mean, the other peculiar thing about the table is if you're a couple, it doesn't matter how many children you have, it's couple with no children, couple with children. If you're a single parent, it seems to depend on whether you've got one child or two.
Again, it's a simplified fundication.
Well, I'd like to point out that there is a significant group of people living on the island who are, quite frankly, we are coughing up far more money than we should. I've been with them for 20 years, okay? I get 5% off. But I have to find £220 a month out of my single pension. Mm-hmm. And this applies to a large number of people that I know. Mm-hmm. And, now their husbands and wives are dying off. You find a lot of single older people are having to find a huge chunk of money that actually, for some of them, is causing a huge problem. It is, and then you can say, all right, we'll sell you a bungalow or whatever it is, But then you have.
This doesn't affect pensions at all.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely, and we only have one income, and I'm very angry about this because it doesn't only apply to anything like this. It also applies to going on holiday. Hey, what? If I go on holiday, I've got to pay a single supplement. For what?
You can't go on holiday.
No, you're not
allowed. But you see what I'm getting at? I know at least 4 people in Ventnor, 2 of whom are actually dying right now, and one of them, I know that this has been a terrible burden on her to find that money that she has to pay for her council tax. It is £200 a month, but she has a very small pension. But they fall into this terrible gap where there is no protection whatsoever for these people. And if you look at the numbers on the island, I think you will discover that there are a large number of very disgruntled people. And what do we get for it? The answer is nothing. I don't mind paying £200 a month if I thought for 1 minute that it was going to be spent on for instance, 2,000, I've just found this out, 2,000 families who are now living, in temporary accommodation on the island because they're homeless. I wouldn't mind at all if I thought some of my money was going towards that, but it isn't, is it? No. And I would like to raise this matter because I know in Ventnor that there are a lot of people who live on there by themselves, and there is a struggle to find these.
Yes, it's not a situation that is families, it is single people as well. I'm sure.
Exactly. And some people really do struggle to have to pay this council tax, even with 25% off. And of course, it's even more irksome if your rotten old neighbours are doing Airbnb and driving you completely mad, like my neighbours are. I bet they're not deserving anyway.
Does that count?
Well,
I don't know.
yes, I bet they're not. I bet they're not.
Well, that's
no. But do you see what I mean? There is actually a disenfranchised group of people on the island who I think if you wrote a letter, of course, to the county press saying this, you'd probably have thousands of them writing in. But it's true. Most of you are couples. If you had to find your council tax out of your income, you had to pay it, I think you might have a slightly different view of this. I mean, universal benefit, what a joke. I have no benefits at all. I claim none.
But
right?
that's the case of this, of course. But that's a good indication of actually there are some people that come under that. So you're absolutely
Just
right.
slightly.
They are thinking,
And then they've got a cop up.
sure.
Yeah, but the problem is that this whole thing was supposed to simplify matters when in fact it's
And it
become
doesn't.
No, it hasn't. It's just
exponentially
made it 10
complicated,
times
you know,
worse.
and it just doesn't work in the way that
No,
it was ever
it doesn't.
envisaged. But nobody that has it in their hands to do anything about it will admit to the fact that there are any problems, far less address the problems that are there.
No,
And
don't.
we on the island are well, it's a unique community. You know, when you look at the demographics, Julian.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And and the estate agents rub their hands in glee about it all. You know?
There is, I mean, there is a kind of problem with this. Now, whether actual universal credit once people are on it works well or not is a different matter. But there's two levels to it. See, the actual transition onto universal credit for most people is actually quite a trauma, quite a traumatic thing, because you have 5 or 6 weeks without money, and then you have, and then once you've got the money, you have then got to manage your money in a completely different way. So that's the way I think as Ventnor Town Council we can lend some support. I think I'm doing a little bit of it, Jason's doing a little bit of it, and certainly Tony McCarthy up with that, and Ventnor's very much involved in that. I think that's where the Town Council can lend value, and is support for this transition. Money management now is a completely different matter for people who used to have basically everything paid for them on a fortnightly basis, and they're now getting a monthly payment which they have to manage themselves. And not everybody's coping with that. There is, I think, where the actual problems, and then that's where the pain is lying. I think universal credit, once you're on it, has its benefits. Yeah, but it's getting on it, and then things that it works for things like where it struggles a little bit is for people who've got 0-hour contracts who get 40 hours 1 week and then 0 the next. Universal credit tries to cope with that, and in practice and mind doesn't really do it. So that's where I see it. In terms of the corporate response, I'm not quite sure. I think we have to raise our
This is about going down again.
But
they're not happening now, Dave. Now we're being asked to do it again.
Yeah.
Cut it again.
But at the end of the day, for all that's been given to that, universal credit is meaning the government is paying less benefit. So
Yes.
It is saving.
That's all it is.
Yeah. It has its.
DWP is an administration unit now. You know, job centres don't do what they say on the plants. We've done it here for 7 years because they don't do it on the island, and it's been fairly successful.
Yeah,
but it's mostly about what we do and what Dave does in DOA.
The thing is,
we're doing it ourselves.
Jason, the thing is, what are we going to do about this consultation? Well, Stephen's just said what I said originally. I don't begin to understand the words of it, and despite going online and trying to figure it out for myself, and I think around this table we're relatively articulate and intelligent, and so, and I agree with what Stephen says that the average person in the street hasn't got a clue, but fortunately for them and for us, they're not really being asked, but we are being asked. So how long does the consultation last for, David?
Dates on there.
Well, it's coming in on the 1st of April.
No.
No.
The consultation's
Another couple
open
of
to
weeks.
February, so we got a month.
So, if I may say, David suggested before that perhaps so there is a good element. There's an element to it which is required because it's to change the system to attempt to mesh in with universal benefit. And you said that by modifying the grid, there is a possibility to just to retain the grid, but just to bump the numbers up a little bit.
I'm sure that grid can be adjusted to make sure that
the option one, the first,
that won't please the Isle Council, of course, because the other ingredient is they want to save some money.
But when you add the two sums together, we're talking about £18 million over the next 4 years. I mean, where's that coming from? On top of the money that's already been cut.
People like me, I expect. But wait till I
do you feel the need to take this on, David?
Do you feel we need to take any more money off the people that haven't got any fucking money?
Well,
that's basically, the money's not coming from the likes of you doing it, it's coming from people who have no money.
Yeah.
They have nothing.
Yeah.
No, but the minute people like us get ill, they want to sell your house.
I don't know people like us.
Money.
I'm just a normal person.
Exactly.
I am not going to vote for you take any more money off people that haven't got any less money than me. Or less option than me.
Yeah, but I don't think that's entirely what dealing means in any case. So let's leave it at this. Let's wrap this up because we could talk about it all night. Councillor Golden,
yeah,
thank you. And you'll come back to that with Jason's involvement.
I'll get it. Who's got the Jason?
I see that.
Okay, thank you very much.
That might be quite biased to the rest, but you're going to have to take it. I'm sorry.
Right, from there to the relatively uncontentious. To the relatively uncontentious dealing, I'm sure you'll agree, Undercliff Drive consultation. Councillor Stewart's been.
We have discussed this, haven't we, at great length?
Yes. Right, can I just say something before?
I'm not going to interfere. I'll make it quite clear.
Okay, well, my personal take is that I'm in favour of opening Undercliff Drive to traffic, and that has been my. I know, but you can disagree with me after I've finished, and then I'll listen to you. It's always been my position since I was involved with the residents in day one, and I understand now that some of the residents have since changed their mind.
Well, they got paid out.
Some of them have since changed their mind and don't want the road to be reopened because it would affect their peace and quiet. I think there are more nuanced arguments to be had over it, so I just want to put it on the table that I am in favour of the reopening of the A3055 through the Undercliff. Having said that, this is a disgrace, this consultation document.
It is.
Rubbish.
I mean, there it is there, one side of an A4 sheet of paper.
Rubbish.
And I don't know if any of you have been onto the Council's lauded consultation website, which is run by Survey Monkey. And it asks you 4 questions.
Yeah.
One of which is illegal,
Yeah.
asks you what your sex is, which is illegal in
Yeah.
the survey. And the other one asks you what your age is, and the other 2 are, do you approve of this or don't you?
Yeah.
So that's the extent of their public consultation in addition to this. But you know my view, so the floor is yours. Ian, do you want to speak?
Right, okay, well, I'm not going to drag it all out. I live in St Lawrence. I was born in St Lawrence. I love living there, and it's the most wonderful place ever. But we all live there, and we don't want the road back. Neither do the people of Knighton, where my daughter lives, and I spend a lot of time. They don't want it back either. We have seen a huge difference. We have once more become a destination village, not a throughway to Blackgate and Shine, and the same as to be said in Knighton. I mean, just because someone doesn't want the traffic outside their house, is what I've got to say to that. My father was a civil engineer. He did the original big survey in 1979 for soil mechanics. I've got a copy of that survey. Robin's got a copy of it. We've all got a copy of it.
Robin has a copy.
And it says, lo and behold, you must be completely bloody mad to do anything there at all. Right, okay. And to be frank, I objected to it because I am an archaeologist. I know the area well. I know all about the geology there. It is insane. The original road ran south of Old Park Hotel, right? And it ran through the gorge, which wasn't there then. That was called Black Man's Hole in the 1740 tithe map, right? And then it went to the Mirabelles, and all the pictures that you look at in Robin's catalogue, the road passes in front of the Mirabelles, not behind it. The road has been shifted back and shifted back. It cannot go back any further. But not only that, I can assure you that Vinci will not indulge in a huge civil engineering project which would cover them in ordure if it promptly fell down or collapsed somewhere else. Twice in the last 20 years, we've thrown shed loads of money down various holes. It's not going to work. It really, really isn't. Now, we've got other options. I have suggested to Stephen that we maybe send a working party down to Lyme Regis. Lyme Regis has an undercliff very similar to ours. They have built an absolutely fantastic national environmental park. It's absolutely wonderful. And I do suggest that maybe some members of the council should go down there and have a look yourselves, because it is a far more sensible thing to do. 200,000 quid, chuck it down half your map. I have also been told by someone I know at Island Roads that it's been suggested that we have a sacrificial road on a Bailey bridge. Oh, God. Okay, fine. You have that. But it will fall down. It will. I mean, trust me, I know. There has never been a village between Knighton and St Lawrence for a very good reason. Because there's no point in it, really, because it will just fall off the cliff. We have had subsistence fishermen and subsistence farmers. We don't have anything else, okay? And I just think it's insane. As I said earlier, 200,000 quid. We have got 2,000 families living in temporary accommodation. I know where they're living, and it's disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. And I think it would be absolutely shamed to go and do that. And the people they're proposing to go and do the survey, it's a joke. They're students at Bournemouth University. Well, one of my kids went to Bournemouth University.
Going back there again.
Well, do you think I'd do that? And the other suggestion is that they would get in the very same person they made all those objections about in the great Undercliff scandal, which again was a load of nonsense, wasn't it? Right from beginning to end. It would be much better off making cycle paths, and I don't want to see one more coach trying to turn around in our village again, because I just don't want to see it. It's different. Times are changing. We have to look after the planet. We have to look after our environment. We're just not going to do it. We don't want it. Nobody wants it. Well, you might want it, but I don't.
Well,
Right.
Very powerfully said.
I mean it.
I know you mean it.
Yeah, I do.
And I'm glad it's not just you and me in the room together on our own, because I'm
I'm not going to have fun. I'm perfectly honest. I am qualified. That's the point.
I know.
I am a qualified
But
person.
there are other people who are qualified who hold
Who?
who
Show me them.
hold different views.
No, they don't. I can tell you they don't.
Lee.
I've had several conversations with Dave Stewart about this whole matter. Yes, this went on for a number of weeks back, or a couple of years ago, when he first looked at this, before he was the leader of the council. And my point of view is, you're in an area of geological unease. Well, anybody who's lived here for a long time, like Dean and me and lots of you, we've seen that road go again and again and again. Now, to put 200,000 quid in to see if it can be made to work, and then possibly put 1 million or 2 million quid in to see if it can be made to work, it isn't going to work. I like the idea that Dean has said, you could do something with this area that was pretty fantastic and very much to the benefit of local residents and to the island as a holiday destination. But putting a road through there is not it. I feel that very strongly.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Marvin.
I went and did the survey monkey thing and stuffed as much stuff as I could put in the one relevant question, or was it two? I forget now.
Two.
And the point I made was that if there is a case to be made for a road between Ventnor and Knighton, then it should look at alternative routes that don't have the risk involved. But the economic case for putting such a link in has to be made. Yeah. And my point was that if there's a spare penny in the Isle of Wight Council, they'd be far better looking at a Medina Bridge, because the economic benefit of that would impact a far greater population group than any link between Ventnor and Knighton is ever going to. And would relieve some of. I got stuck in that traffic light thing the other day.
That's fun, wasn't it?
It was.
Not fun. But I'll tell you about them.
Now I've completely lost the drift of the
Medina Bridge.
The Medina Bridge, yes. The other element was to support what also has just been said about the sort of, dare I call it, a Isle of Wight natural history park type solution that's footpathed or bridle wayed and so on. And my view is at the moment, the gap there isn't long enough. There should be the access to the general public should be massively limited further along, and only the residents allowed through. I mean, I try and cycle out tonight and back most evenings, and the number of cars from either end that go all the way up to this very short, whatever it is, 50-yard stretch of barriers, and then turn around and go back is quite considerable. People just drive along there because they don't know that you can't get through, and they don't believe you can't get through.
Because their sat navs are still switched on. But actually, there is a road. Can I just tell you?
No. Just
there is a road.
let's conduct it in the normal manner. We go round the table, then we'll come back.
Okay, but I can assure you, I've seen the plan.
You've had a good stage.
I'm sorry.
And as far as the Medina Bridge goes, it's very much back on the agenda, Tony. You probably know that already.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Jimmy, do you have anything to add or detract from the argument?
No, Julian said that St. Lawrence was becoming a destination.
Yes.
For what?
Well, we died. We used to have a destination. It does change. It does change. Ventnor is now a destination town instead of a throughway to back.
Yes, I understand. Part of our whole ethos is to increase Ventnor as a destination town and increase the prosperity of the town, more visitors, more spending, more viable businesses, more employment, all that. But other than that, I've only got a kind of romantic memory of that road, which was when I first ever came to Ventnor. My wife was an island girl, and she drove me all around the island. And we drove all the way up the military road and came into Ventnor that way. And it was just such a beautiful way to enter Ventnor, as I discovered, as a town. And after that, when I moved here, I remember St. Lawrence had a park that had, you'd go to St. Lawrence. I mean, I only go now to visit friends who live there. So I just wondered what you meant by destination.
Well, St. Lawrence was always a destination because the glass factory was there, which is now closed. The Old Park Hotel, and I was executive chef there for a number of years, and a big hotel. So St. Lawrence has always been a destination, in that respect.
Well, I think, insofar as there's been economic damage, it's going to be to Ventnor, isn't it? Because Knighton is still going to go through Knighton, so Knighton's not affected in terms of loss of through traffic, and St. Lawrence hasn't really got an economy in just that post office. So Ventnor's the one that's going to suffer from loss of visitors. And it's Jamie's point, really. People do drive around the island if you're here on holiday. And if you drive around the island, you're going to stop for a cup of tea or something for lunch or whatever. And Ventnor, so we're losing people coming to Ventnor driving around the island. That's the cost.
Yeah.
And against that, you've got to put the other issue, to my mind, is how confident can you be that if you spend the money now, you're not going to have a problem somewhere else in years to come. And that's the trick, because you'd be mad to spend 2 million repairing the road where it's broken now, and then find 3 years' time it's likely to break somewhere else. I can see on the internet there is a Southampton University geology report saying that the whole road is vulnerable. And if the expert opinion is there's quite a high probability of it being breached somewhere else within 10, 20 years, it's not worth doing. If they can be confident that that's unlikely, I'm with you. I'd say it probably is worth doing, because of the loss to Ventnor.
I think the economic aspect of things in the Knighton end, as opposed to the Ventnor end, perhaps in the Botanic Gardens, which we could argue about all day, I suppose. Pubs like the Buddle and the other pub in the middle of Knighton will tell you, the people who own these pubs say that it has detrimentally affected their business in the long term. So, sometimes the Buddles hardly ever open these days. Every time I go there for lunch or a drink, it's shut.
I suppose Knighton Undercliff maybe is affected.
No, it's not.
Knighton Village is still on the through route, isn't it? But you're right, Knighton Undercliff will be affected because they're over the hill.
Yeah, go on. I'll cast my mind back to, we did the consultation on this about a year ago, didn't we? And I think the general consensus out of that was that I think there was groups fairly strident on both sides, but I think the general consensus was that maybe a quiet road, a limited access would have been the way to go. However, for all that, whatever your opinion is, there's nothing here that says that it's going to work. There's nothing in this consultation that gives you any encouragement that there is actually a solution to hand. And I think actually, given that we've got a government, a council who are, how you say, as a spare penny in the policy sector, is not. So, I think it's Mr. Stewart's a kind of political nail is on his hat on that you really like to get that going. However, I don't see the practical.
Well, you just reinforcing my argument about that. I think that David Stewart has identified where the money's coming from, and I think it's not going to be from the islands. I don't think it's going to be coming from Island Roads. I think it's going to be coming from central government, because Bob Seeley, who's his political ally, has hung his hat on it as well. And I think that is the reason why this is being pushed. And it would appear
nothing here.
No, and I think the reason for that is probably quite deliberate. The reason for that is probably quite deliberate. I think that there's I think this is political and not financial, but that's just my opinion.
Right.
I'll come to you, Jason, in a minute. You and I have already had this out. Right.
Yeah, the argument for opening the road, even if it's for light traffic, which we did discuss, although how you define light traffic is a little tricky, is that the Ventnor Botanic Gardens would dearly like that open. They have suffered considerably by loss of passing trade, that people have got to actually know that it's there and go for it. The other argument, of course, is the people who are living in Knighton. And I have a good friend who lives right next door to Dave Stewart, funnily enough, and the traffic builds up incredibly there, and the road needs major work doing to it in order to get the traffic flowing. It just, by Norris's, the thing, it just clogs up. So, I mean, there's a big argument for opening this road in order to relieve that. And if it's a question of how many people vote in Ventnor for something as opposed to how many people vote for it in Knighton, I mean, you'll probably find that they'll want the road opened. So therefore, if the road is opened, the big argument is anybody going to guarantee it works? Because I bet, as we found before, you pay a lot of money to a consultant and they never guarantee anything. Never guarantee anything.
It's never stopped the other
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So you may well spend £2 million and then find in 5 years' time, zoop, it slips again.
Right, can I now say about
I could be convinced on the cost-benefit analysis if somebody shows me some numbers, but they haven't done that yet. So the traffic flow, economic benefits to business, all those things, versus the £2 million of the taxpayers' money which could be spent on other things. So somebody could convince me if I see the numbers. They'll never convince me on the geology, because it will always fall wrong. And so throwing taxpayers' money at that, I'm not so keen on. Environmentally, more traffic, not necessarily a good thing either. So on the whole, not in favour, but I could be convinced with some numbers.
Yeah, Jason.
Where to start? Right. Okay. So
keep it concise.
Okay, concise then. Therefore, right. I will cover exactly what people have said there. I know what Dave Stewart has said. This is economically useful to the island because it connects the east to the west to the south. I don't buy that. I buy it as a A3055 that hits Knighton to Whitwell to Ventnor. I get that. We have got a diversion that has happened for the last 5 years. That's okay, right? As far as I'm concerned, that's okay. What happens? So we were talking about, government money. When this happened in 2014, I was mayor. We spoke to government. We said to government, look, give us some money then that this has happened, because you're giving money to Hastings Pier, okay? Because that burnt down surreptitiously. We knew this just fell down, right? Hastings Pier burnt down. No one knew why, but they got £2 million. We couldn't get money for that because we were part of the PFI. They were meant to pay for that. So therefore, the problem that ever came from that is the PFI's problem. And if this local authority has not got the balls to take it to that PFI, then I'm sorry, we can't get to the end of this, and it's not our job to do it.
Great.
The problem with the PFI is that the council will not let you and me see sight of the contract because of commercial confidentiality, which I think
It's disheartening.
to misquote you, is a load of the proverbial as well. Although I'm in favour of the reopening of the road, despite Dealing's persuasive arguments to the contrary, I think that some of the answers would be within that contract, but we are, as it stands at the moment, and people have tried under freedom of information to get it released very unsuccessfully. Right, 2 minutes, Dillian.
Right. There is a set of plans that I have seen that were done in 1953. It is an alternative road that goes from Whitwell to Ashenold Lane. It runs through the back of Knighton, it goes across the fields, and it comes out round the back of Knighton Manor Farm. That was approved by the County Council at the time. Those plans are still in the archives. I know where they are. Okay? I would rather spend £20 million on doing that, because that would relieve anyone who wants to go east to the west. If you want to do that,
Get them out,
you know,
sure.
go and get them out. But it's a much more sensible plan. That road will never, right now, it's run out completely ruined. You cannot push the road any further back towards the cliffs because there's nothing underneath it. I know that.
Sorry, Chair, through you. I would countenance because we've made that a quiet road. I think that should be a quiet. It always was an Esplanade road. It was never a transport road. Keep it as it is and find somewhere else.
It was a transport road.
Well, it was always an
Esplanade
Esplanade
that
road.
way. The lorries all went that way. No. It was always. It's
Sorry,
one of the arguments I have to the contrary, and to the contrary to Delian's argument, Lord's like it is an A road, and the County Council has a statutory requirement to maintain it as an A road. Always has been. Whether they do it or not is a different matter, but it is their statutory requirement to maintain it as an A road. It's the A3055. It has it's designated just under motorway status, although you wouldn't know it to look at it. But that's the fact of the matter. So, from that point of view alone. But, I understand.
I love the argument. It's never been held up for 30 years. It's never happened.
But I'm fascinated by this new thing that you've just come from the archives of 1953, which was the year I was born, Dealing. Everything sensible happened in that year. But I'd be fascinated to see that.
Yes.
Which puts me in somewhat of a quandary about how we're going to resolve this, because we split around the table, as I can see, and that very rarely happens under my stewardship. Stephen.
If I may, so this is the hottest potato in the whole of St Lawrence. You might not be surprised to hear that. It's not exactly Heathrow runway 3, but for some people it's approaching that way. So I've written a statement here. It's about 3 minutes, so no need to don't nod off halfway through. Councils must exercise financial prudence and avoid risk. I believe the scheme fails on both counts. The cost to perform a reinstatement has been estimated at between 1 million in the current proposal and 20 million as recently as 2017, suggesting that the reality is truly unknown. Next year we will see cuts to public services of 4.5 million, with essential services being removed and downgraded. Considering that, and for the reasons I will go on to, I do not believe the Council should support the inclusion of a £200,000 budget line for a design study. The Undercliff is the largest urban landside in Northern Europe. Problems will certainly reoccur. Even today, it's easy to find longitudinal cracks along the road, meaning the council will be walking eyes wide open into throwing good money after bad. The Undercliff is an area unique for its natural beauty. This will be damaged by reopening the road. What is now a memorable part of the island for pedestrians and cyclists will become dangerous and unattractive by sharing narrow carriageways with motor vehicles. The area cannot be truly enjoyed when travelling by car and should be promoted as a destination for the health and well-being of locals and tourists alike. Additionally, in the 2.5 miles between Knighton and the Botanic Gardens, there's only about 100 metres of footway. On these grounds alone, the road is unsuitable for larger volumes of traffic. On a strategic level, it's recognised the creation of roads encourages increased traffic. More trips are made simply because the facility becomes available. The Council has a stated aim to reduce trips by car, and on at least 5 of the Council's 6 strategic aims, as per the front page of their corporate plan, this scheme falls short. Despite the claims of the previously touted economic impact study that bases its conclusions on self-selecting, self-reporting respondees and then extrapolates those figures, I suggest this is not the correct investment for the island's economy. Halfway. For Ventnor, This road would drive more traffic through the town, which is at odds with the pedestrianisation scheme of last year that aimed to make the town a healthier, more inviting location. The road would deliver more traffic through St Lawrence, past the park, through the centre, along Trinity and Leeson Road, adding to noise and air pollution through the heart of the town. Importantly, the reopening would not address the larger issues facing retail up and down the country, such as shrinking disposable incomes, online shopping, out-of-town shopping and parking charges imposed by local authorities. Finally, should this council not wish to take an explicitly negative stance, and I understand why that might be, then I would suggest that the response to the consultation would be to question the quality of the consultation process itself. That does not identify stakeholders, least of all in the ward within which all the works would take place, does not have any exploration of options and their costs beyond one single suggestion, nor any summaries of previous studies, which there have been several, is devoid of risk assessments, and does not consider alternative plans for economic activity of the Undercliff as a whole. And finally, it is reliant on a wholly unsuitable method of gathering data and opinions. That is an online survey to which any person may petition support, negative or otherwise, from anonymous respondees, and which is wide open for multiple anonymous comments. Therefore, I contend that this process is not fit for purpose to kick off a stream of funding that could result in either hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of pounds spent. So, there it is. If the council, I would say if the council does not wish to respond negatively, then I would say the consultation process itself does not provide enough. I'll go with that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I would disagree with as far as the consultation goes. As far as the, and I've said this before and I'll just repeat it, as far as the funding, I don't know about the feasibility study, that where the money's come from, but as far as the capital investment, I think they would find that out with the Isle of Wight. The previous Chancellor and this Chancellor have both said that there is money available for multi-million pound capital projects, which this would undoubtedly be. So from that point of view, I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking about the way that I understand these things.
No, this government as it stands will not pay for
well, we'll argue about that, Jason, but that's just the way I think about it. But I have no doubt that maybe approaching it from the criticism of the consultation is probably the way forward.
I would understand because
are we taking, sorry, Chair, through you, Chair. Are we saying that is the St Lawrence residents' response?
that is the majority. I can confidently say
that's not a political response. That's a St Lawrence response.
That is the majority view. Of course, that is not the view of everybody. But that is the majority view. Yes, there are some people who would very much like to see it open, and often they like to see it open because they want to see a return of the public transport. That is very often comes up. But I mean, as we know, there's large parts of the island that are on roads that don't have public transport. So it's not a certainty.
It's going to depend whether you live on the road or not, though, isn't it? I mean, I've had a chat with Tony. Water will come and dig up our road every year, and we both said how lovely and quiet it is, and we like it closed up all the time. I mean, and that's just human nature.
Yeah.
But if you don't live on the road, you haven't got a bus service. You've got to drive further around. Yeah. And the traffic issue, Loudon, for example, will probably get less traffic.
And nobody's mentioned the people who work where we are. Because of the traffic.
Problem traffic in Loudon.
Yeah. So, right.
There is more roads begat more traffic.
Yeah. Can I suggest then that we approach this as a criticism of the consultation process per se, rather than the idea, and that we're not in a position to make a decision about whether or not we support it. We're obviously split around the table in any case, and probably in the minority the way things are at the moment, but that we take it forward on that basis, and that the consultation is woefully inadequate in as much as there are no figures available, there is no technical data available, no geographical or archaeological data, so that we're in the position where we can't make any kind of recommendation based on the paucity of the evidence available to us.
Yeah. So kick it down the road then.
Might add, Chair, that
so we can't make a decision.
And as you know, I take A-level groups to Ventnor quite often. If they came to me with that, I'll be quite.
No, so would I. I mean, yeah, we're both in the same boat. So, no, it's not so much that we're not taking a decision, dealing. It's just the fact that on the evidence before us, I'm certainly not qualified to make any decision. I appreciate the expertise that you've got, and I don't doubt the sincerity of your argument. But you're not necessarily going to convince me unless because I don't know the pros and cons of your argument. I know the pro is because you believe in it passionately. But there are other people who will argue differently to that, and I would like to hear that argument as well, but I'm not in a position to make a decision. I may change my mind on it, obviously.
Well, you wouldn't get an answer from that survey.
No, of course you don't. And that's the whole point of it, I think. So can we agree around the table?
Can you have time till the next council?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
We don't.
Well, you don't. Okay.
I'll tell you something about that wretched bridge where they want to build it.
No, we're not talking about the bridge,
There's underneath
we've
it.
spent enough time on this, we're not talking about the bloody bridge. We're not talking about Medina
I
Crossing.
know.
At all.
There's a way through.
Then we'll go
Round it.
to the tunnel and the rail link to Gosport after that. So, David, are you happy to leave?
Happy to work something out.
Yeah, okay. Can I leave it to you to do that? Colleagues,
You need to tell council.
and then we take it from there.
I would say the only danger is that if Knighton Council, for instance, make a very, very positive one in any direction, and we don't, and we're hovering, if you like, looking for more and more information, it'll put the whole thing out of balance.
Well, they have the benefit, I believe, of the council being a member.
That's right. So, I mean, it will put it out of balance unless we fairly quickly come up with some positive response, rather than actually saying we want more info.
Well, we're limited in terms of time, that's the only problem.
I'm afraid I think it's a fudge just asking for more information, because they'll come back with more information, it still won't be adequate, and we'll still be in the same situation that we are now.
Say yes or no.
I think right, absolutely.
Well, it's perfectly in order for you to move a proposal to the effect that we either support or don't support the reopening of the road, and just leave it at that. And we can take it straight to the vote and be done with it.
Yeah.
Happy?
I would be happy to do that. I think this has been flogged and flogged and flogged over the years. I think there's nothing that we've said around the table tonight that hasn't been said 100 times.
Yeah.
Okay, then I offer you the opportunity to propose just that. Then.
Okay, in that case, I'll make a proposal that we don't support this scheme to go ahead with the consultations with the Undercliff tribe as a council for the reasons that have been adequately expressed this evening, I think particularly with the Councillor Cockpit.
I don't think you can ask them to don't go ahead with the consultation, because this is a consultation. The consultation has gone ahead. It's already published the results.
Well, the 200,000.
Yeah, we
You
don't
don't achieve what they say.
Yeah. I don't want to support spending 200,000 quid on seeing if this is possible, particularly given the previous item we were just talking about support for residents. It's like, if we've got 200,000 quid to spare, let's spend it elsewhere.
So, right, in a nutshell, you're proposing that we indicate to the Isle of Wight Council that the Ventnor Town Council is not in favour of spending £200,000 on a feasibility study to reopen the 8005 plan.
I so propose.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor.
It's just Mrs. Fry will do.
Thank you. All those in favour of Councillor Gates' proposal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? 1, 2, 3. So that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. One abstention.
No, sorry, no abstention. Was it? Oh, sorry, Colin, sorry, one abstention. I do beg your pardon. Thank you. Right.
I think it is 20 years this month since the other end of it fell down.
We've done the
£8 million.
I don't take it. Right. Public forum. I'm not saying that to you.
Oh, really?
Sorry, my mistake.
I'm happy to go ahead.
Oh, so we'll come with the motion.
As the report, Chair.
As per the report. Any questions for the clerk?
Into the report.
Okay. Public